what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fire Time Network PowerHour. Grant, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Tim. How you doing?
I'm good. It's funny. We were talking offline right before we got started. I literally just slammed a granola bar, and I'm pumped up. I'm ready to
You made
go.
it.
I
I was
made
trying
it.
to get myself all psyched up to like how am I going to introduce this? I was starting to get nervous, so I'm glad you made it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, it's so good to be here. And today's conversation is going to be an awesome one. We appreciate everybody that's watching. And as we go through this, just know, we want this to be something that helps you. So if you want to enter in comments or questions or anything like that, we'll do everything that we can to try and tackle those. And Grant, as we start out here, let's just hit a little recap of why we do this. The goal of Power Hour is to spend an intentional 60 minutes together where we all get better. In the whirlwind of business, it's so easy to just get pulled to the next task, to the next task, to the next task. And like, for me, like there was some of that this morning of like, I was jumping in to solve different problems. And that's just what happens to run a business, which is great. But that needs to be balanced with taking intentional time where you put first things first and you say, hey, we're going to deal with the things that are important. They're going to make an impact, not today, not tomorrow, but for the years to come. And that's what the purpose of this is, right?
Yep, 100%. I mean, I'm in the thick of it, just like everybody. And I look forward to these hours and actually dissecting just one topic. I think it's really important as leaders to kind of segregate out different things that you need to focus on and work through. And today is your topic du jour, but sales are something fun to talk about. And I look forward to the next 60 minutes talking about them.
Yeah, I'm pumped about this, and as we think about this, like the whole focus behind even the name Power Hour is like, true power comes when we pour ourselves out. And that's what this goal, like this whole thing is about. The goal is that we would pour ourselves out for the sake of our customers, our team members, anybody that we serve. We want them to be better because of what we do. And hopefully this helps you do that. Now, as we start out, Grant, let's talk about our giveaway, because we do have a giveaway item today. And man, we got to get like an official Yeti sponsorship on this, because they're hooking it up.
I know, seriously. Another Yeti 20-ounce Rambler. Everybody knows what these can do, hot or cold. Keep it extra long, and we'll send it to you. There's a question we'll be asking you guys, and whoever answers it first will be the winner.
Yeah, so the heart behind today is it's all about the sales process and how to turn your team into a selling machine. So we're going to give this away to someone who shares a story about recent sales success inside the Fire Time Network. And we may not give it to the first one. Like, this is going to be a judgment call.
True. That's a good point.
I don't know what the criteria is.
What's the best story?
We're going to pick somebody. Yeah. What's the best story of some kind of recent sales success? And Grant, you don't know about this, but I'm going to do it just because I've got the mic right now. But we're working on a pretty amazing project. You just teased this out on Instagram the other day, but for about 6 months now, our team has been working on the Fire Time Journal. This is a 164-page printed journal outlining the details of how to run a fireplace company, going from leadership to sales to installation. And we're going to be giving away thousands of these over the next year. They're 100% free. It's our gift to the industry. But the reason I say this is literally the first person that comments in, I will send an advanced copy of this. This is the prototype. We get our real ones back from the printer. I think it's like a week from today or something like that to ship out to the expo. And the first person to comment wanting one, I'll DM you afterwards to get your information, and I'll send you an advanced copy of that. All right, sorry to drop that bomb, but I've been pumped seeing these things. Like, as we speak, they're being printed right now by the thousands.
Yeah. It's been a long journey for the team, and everybody's hunkered down, and we're starting to see it kind of pay off, and it will be incredible to get those things in-house and know that they're going to be here and be complete and be, just perfect in our eyes.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. So today's conversation is going to be all about how to turn your company into a selling machine. Like you said, I get, pretty fired up about this because sales is definitely a passion of mine. Maybe we could just talk big picture first. I would say I think this is fair that many companies in our industry think they do sales well, but sales is really an afterthought. And I would say there's actually not many retailers in our industry that take sales seriously. Now that's controversial, and I'm not saying that to be a jerk, but I think that for many companies that's the case. And Grant, maybe you could just talk about why that is, even based on our like secret shopping experiences.
Well, I think that, we have knowledge, and I think that we know the things that we do within our business. We know how to install, we know the product, but do we actually try to get better at selling the products that we do sell on a regular basis? No. We go out, we sell, we have conversations, we kind of puff our chests out and talk about how much we know. And really, I don't see a lot of salespeople looking to get better at sales. And there's a lot of different reasons, but just one example would be pursuit or follow-up. Even within my own business is a constant struggle. And we'll talk about it more in this, but such a key part to, what a salesperson should do. So for the salespeople out there, you might know everything about the products you sell, but there's so much room for growth in your sales process. And I'm excited to talk about a few things today because Tim, as we've went on this journey, I've learned so much from you, just to kind of to put it right out there. Selling's all about solving problems, right? I mean, that's like number one when it comes to what we do. It does not matter in our industry or not either.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I appreciate you saying that. The thing I think about, just to rewind back in my journey, is that I worked as a mediocre installer for almost 4 years and then transitioned into my first sales role. This is, I don't know, going back 10, 11 years. And I was working for a company here in Portland, and I knew a lot about fireplaces, mostly having to do with installation parameters and clearances to combustible and how to read a manual. And so I thought I was good at sales because I enjoyed talking to people. I sold a decent amount of product. And I think if you would have asked my boss or other people in the company, they would have said like, yeah, Tim's a great salesperson. In reality, though, I was a extremely mediocre salesperson. Now I was passionate, and that helps, but in reality, I didn't actually care about making the sale that much. I wasn't even that interested in solving someone's problem. I just had a set of facts that I could vomit up onto somebody, and sometimes they bought. I didn't pursue the opportunity. I didn't think about it necessarily from their perspective, but I quote unquote made sales. And that company for this one manufacturer that we sold was one of their top retailers in the country. So it was like, I thought that we did a really good job, and in some ways, maybe we did. But what I realized when I went to my my next job and it was kind of in control of having a retail showroom, I realized very quickly how mediocre I was because we didn't have a marketing budget. We had a pretty lousy showroom, horrendous parking lot, looked like a meth lab, and basically no marketing budget. So when people came in, if they left, I had no way of tracking them down or following up. And that was the start of everything. And so I think that the reason I say that is that for most companies, like for many companies, you may not need more sales right now because your installations are so booked out and things are crazy. But Grant, like this thing is gonna cool off. And honestly, dude, like, I mean, I think it's fair to say we think this year it will happen, we will see it slow down. And when things slow down, people still buy fireplaces, but not as many. And it's the companies that are intentional that can go out and make those sales. And the best part too, sorry, I'm ranting on this. We can go to the next thing.
I love it. Keep going.
So the other thing I think about is that even if your company's totally slammed right now, by being intentional about your sales process and turning your team into a selling machine, you can be pickier about your jobs. So like those jobs that you take on that the customer's horrible to deal with, or the job is outside your expertise, most companies, because they don't filter anything as far as is it a good opportunity, a bad opportunity, what other opportunities do we have in the pipeline that could get moved up, because none of that's considered. We take everything that comes our way and we get ourselves in just terrible situations on repeat because we're not working intentionally. So even if you don't quote need the sales right now, what if all of a sudden you could choose between only doing jobs that are good for your company and your customer versus taking on everything? Like, one of those is a lot better choice.
No question. I mean, Tim, something that you say often, it's we lose out to indecision, not competition, right?
Yeah.
And if we focused more on how we sold, educating people, solving their problems, actually investigating into what that customer is in that showroom for, we'll lose out less to
Yeah.
indecision. Competition's not the issue, and
Yep.
especially as sales dwindle in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see a slow in a demand. Maybe, hopefully not, but there are so many things that are happening. You have to believe, and honestly, you have to prepare for the worst and hope for the
Yeah.
best. We should be focusing on the back end of our sales process more now than ever in anticipation of a slowdown, because we can't afford to lose those customers we pay so desperately, to call us or to come in the door with advertising dollars.
Yeah, yeah, and I love Mike's optimism here. He was just at IBS. The future's bright, and yeah, Mike, I agree, and I think when we talk about the slowdown, I think it's probably a combination of things. Like the supply chain issues are still so tough. Like demand is probably going to still stay high for a while. Um, for many companies, if they're not able to get product, I think that's the difficulty that I see. Yeah,
And I'll kind of go into it a little bit more. I think with I'm in an area where new construction is going to probably continue to be in demand and have supply issues for the next couple of years. No question. We have such little inventory, and this is, all over the country, realistically, just low inventory amounts, tons of people moving into our area. So I anticipate new construction. Where I think there's going to be a slowing is after April 15th, going into next year. I think a lot of people are going to be thinking about finances and about $5,000 to $7,000 purchases. And our gas inserts, our wood inserts, our pellet inserts, our existing home sales, I do believe are going to be put on hold to wait and see what's coming out. So that's to speak to it a little bit more, but we got more sales stuff to talk about.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's awesome perspective that Mike has because he's out on the East Coast, which is a totally different market than where we are seeing things. Let's jump into this. So, Grant, we really don't prepare much for this. It's very off the cuff with the
Yeah.
goal just to be organic and authentic. But let's just talk about this. Like, I think the first thing, if you want to turn your company into a sales machine, it's got to start with the sales process, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not talking an elaborate one, right? I mean, you just need a sales process and everybody needs to be on the same page. I mean, I think about the most important things we've done with our sales team. And I feel like I can rack my brain and come up with hundreds of super important changes or modifications we've made to the sales team. But when it comes down to it, our simple sales process is, greet the customer, investigate the customer by
Yeah,
solving their problem, asking questions, probing why they're in a drafty fireplace, blank wall, whatever it is. Why are they in there? Solving their problem, giving them a price. Tim, this is something you always talk about. Step 3,
yep.
giving them a price, and step 4, showing them a path to completion. Those 4 simple things. And I know you'll elaborate on that a little bit more detail, but man, those 4 simple things
Yep.
changed our business and allowed
Yeah.
me to not be the only salesperson and allowed us to duplicate, now 4 salespeople.
Yeah, often when we talk to folks, is sometimes complaining about, I'm the best salesperson. There's no one that can do it like me. And I mean, like depending on what you want, that could be fine. But if you're in a retail store, that's a problem because if you're the business owner, you better not be the highest producing salesperson, or not
Yep.
for long because
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to grow and run the business otherwise. And I feel like for me,
exactly.
in my retail stores, one of the things that we were able to do, which is great, is like have multiple team members that vastly outsold more than I ever did in retail. And there's a little bit of an ego hit there, but for me what that did is I felt like my job as a leader was to figure out the joke, right? Figure out how does the joke work, okay? How does the customer experience work? Execute it to the point where we feel like there's something there and then teach and replicate, right? And so for me to continue focusing on, my own sales and kind of hoarding my secrets and not investing in people, maybe I could sell more individually than any one of them, but I would way rather teach what I have and even if they're not as good as me, which arguably I'd say that they probably were, to have 5 of me at 70, 80%, like that's so much better, and I think that's the job of a leader, is like to train people to be better than you.
Close enough is good enough, and we have to get over that they're never going to be good enough. Still today, I haven't been on the sales floor in 2 years, and I still believe I could go down there and outsell any of our salespeople. And they're probably, they'll see this eventually and they'll all laugh because I probably can't. But the thing is close enough is good enough, and they need you in a position to help them. You can get a lot out of educating a salesperson that maybe isn't as good as you and giving them a structure. They need you for that structure. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I don't know what to do and I don't know how to give that structure. You do know that structure because you do it every single day, and you have to put pen to paper. But more importantly, you need to be solving the problems that your salespeople are getting into. You have to solve the customer's problems. You have to, on the backside, be answering all the problems that you get into and not managing expectations so that you could manage expectations better. So many owners that are selling put out fires, but don't solve the cause, find the cause of that fire. Once you step into that leadership role, you start finding cause. And it leads back, like we say, to the sales and managing expectation all the way through the process.
Yeah. So, okay. So sales process, I feel like the biggest thing, if we want to be able to turn our team into a selling machine, is we have to be able to understand the customer's problem. That's number one. And, we've done podcast episodes about a 7-step sales process that we recommend, but we're throwing all that away. Like right now, we've got 1 step in the process: understand the customer's problem. And this is something, Grant, like just anecdotally, I mean, together, me and you have probably shopped 10 retailers together in the last, couple years, year and a half. Like, how many times have we ever been seriously asked about our problem?
Never once.
Never once. Not once. And we've gone to like legitimate good retailers.
Good stores. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
legitimate showrooms, legitimate salespeople, not salespeople that have been doing it. I mean, truthfully, the salespeople that have been doing it longer were worse. And I'm not trying to be blunt or a jerk, but we get in such a rhythm when we start to talk about all the stuff that makes sense to us, and it makes no sense to the consumer.
Yeah. And again, I don't say that to dog on companies, because I've been there, but I think what it proves is there's such an opportunity,
I have team members that still do it. It's a constant fight, especially with newbies learning, but even with veterans that have, we're still figuring out exactly how to do it in the most effective way. No one's perfect, but it's truly something that you have to hone in on and continue to make an emphasis with your team, solving their problems.
Yeah. So the number one thing you can do is teach your team to understand a customer's problem. And the way that you do that, honestly, is when a customer walks into the showroom and someone greets them, you cannot go look at a product, So Grant, you and Andrea walk into the showroom and I say, hey, how are you doing, guys? Thanks for coming in. This is your first time in our showroom. We go through, the greeting. And then I have to stop and say, oh man, I'm so glad that you guys came in. As you can see, we've got a bunch of fireplaces on display, and they're actually really specific for different applications. Do you mind having a seat and I can ask you a couple questions about your project? That way I can show you some options that'll work for you. That's the secret. And I'm telling you, like that must be part of the process every single time. And the beauty about this, I was literally just last week, I flew out to work with a business for just a real quick trip for less than 24 hours out there. And this is what we hit for their newer salespeople. We put together a customer checklist of 15 questions, and they printed out 50 copies of it, and they just got it on a clipboard. But every single time someone comes in, that's the process, right? And they wanted this for their new people who don't know the questions to ask. But the beauty is that when you have a system like this, you don't need experience to understand the customer's problem. You could take someone, it's their second day in the showroom, and they can still go through the checklist. Hey, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? Okay, perfect. They grab the checklist. Tell me about your project. What do you have right there? Is it a blank wall? Do you have a freestanding stove? Do you have an open fireplace, right? Okay, cool. Now, what decorative style is the home? Is this a more traditional project? Is this a rustic home? Is this a contemporary home? You don't need experience to go through this. You just need patience. And a lot of people don't have the patience to do it, but it saves you so much time on the back end. And, Mike's got a great comment here where he talks about how, we form these impressions so quickly. And that's really true, right? So like, if I go into a showroom, and Grant, typically what we find when we go in is we go in and, I just usually talk about my house. I'll just say, hey, I've got a space that I've been thinking about, putting a fireplace in. And instantly, are you looking for an insert or a zero clearance? And like, what do I always say? I think I'm looking for an insert. And literally within 2 seconds, we're looking at inserts. Now, every once in a while, if someone, doesn't fall for that and they say, oh, okay, well, so do you have a brick chimney there? And I'll say, no, I don't. We're instantly in front of zero clearance fireplaces, which that's just as bad because again, like they don't know anything about the project, don't know anything about what's important to me as a customer. So the checklist.
I mean, few more questions are necessary. We need to know venting termination, age of home. We have to investigate further. Is the point to know if it's a fireplace or an insert?
Yeah. So I feel like, we have to teach our people to understand the customer's problem. And the best way to do that is honestly a checklist. It's easy to say, oh, it's robotic. I'm not going to look like a professional. And I'm just like, get out of here, man. Like, I mean, I've been doing this 15 years. I use a checklist every single time.
So full disclosure, we do not do that. We are in the process of working towards a variation of that, if not that exactly. We have set our showroom up where there is a story in every category. We'll qualify to the category and then we'll take them through the story of product. In hindsight, we're telling them about a bunch of product that might not be relevant to them and wasting a bunch of time. I love the flow and it's been very successful for a number of years. But man, it takes a lot of time to narrow it down to the same thing. A simple checklist with 15, 20 questions can get you narrowed down. And man, Tim, doesn't the customer want the process simplified? They are so glazed over and tired, especially if they've been to a place before. You want to make an impression, sit them down on a couch in front of a cozy fireplace, take them through a checklist and let them know they have 2 or 3 options. Man, that is what they're looking for.
Yeah, Grant, and you hit the magic words. It's sit down. So truly, this must be done sitting down. If I mean, you've seen this happen, Grant. Like when we go into showrooms and I am working with one of the owners or managers on their space, I don't think I've ever recommended that a business add a display. I think every single time you probably need to remove 6 to 10 displays on the showroom floor. And the reason is to make room for sitting spaces. Like we really need sitting spaces where we can comfortably sit down, offer them a cup of coffee or a bottle of water, and ask them about the project. Customers, if you do it right, they don't get upset about this. It shows that you care about their project and you don't want to make a mistake on it.
Yeah. And you're not talking like vignettes. You're not talking individual rooms. You're just talking a couple chairs, a table, a sitting arrangement that's, inviting to the consumer. And honestly, when I say it play out on the showroom, in our showroom, we're sitting down. I feel like you got them. You're sitting down. You're jiving differently. You're starting to joke around a little bit. I feel like, that's when you know that you have a serious customer. If you can do it right off the bat, it differentiates yourself from everybody else right away. Like Mike said earlier, 10 to 15 seconds, they're making an impression.
Yeah. And Mike's just dropping these fire bombs here that like the impression as well. What happens when you pull up to the business, is the parking lot striped? Is there litter all over the place? Is there a sweet, electric fireplace or gas fireplace that's burning in the window? That earns you points. And Grant, I've ripped this off from you. Bathroom. You always, oh gosh. Yeah. We'll go down that rabbit hole later. You got to have a clean bathroom. We've seen some horror stories, but Grant, you always talk about how sales is a race to 10 points. And, I don't know where all the points fall, but the way the business looks when you walk in, it's probably worth 2 points. And like when imagine it, every time I go to Falco's, man, I pull up in that parking lot and I think you've got my 2 points. Like you guys are in the business. And I know that the second I pull into the parking lot. So that's really big.
Well, I think, yeah. And like, there's multiple points earned before you even touch a salesperson, how they're greeted, as Mike mentioned earlier, their impression of the store and what they walk into. Sales is much more than just the sales process, but yeah.
So number one, if we want to turn our company into a sales machine, teach your team to understand the customer's problem. It must happen every single time. And again, if you don't want to use a checklist, that's okay. They better have a notepad and they better be sitting down, right? That's number one. It is worth putting in the effort for that. Next up, Grant, you alluded to this, but writing up an estimate on the
Yeah.
showroom floor every time.
Have to happen every
Okay,
time.
now, okay, again, as we've done secret shopping, how many times have we been written up an estimate?
Never.
Never.
No, I
I've
don't
been
even
written.
think we've been offered. Maybe
No.
maybe we were asked an email address and maybe sent once, but
Yeah.
no, we've never been. And we're not talking like fixed quote. And I want to emphasize, we understand how meticulous our industry is. Fireplaces seem easy, but they're difficult,
Yep.
and you have to be really good at what you do to know how to do this. But a customer needs a range. They need
Yep.
a ballpark, and you do have the ability in your business to give a range of a $500
Yeah.
differential or $1,000 for sure,
Yep.
every single time, and you should, and they need
Yeah.
it. As far as the points and everything, giving them a price, solving their problem, huge. Giving them a price to solve their problem separates you from everybody else in your town.
Yeah. I mean, sales is a game of momentum, and the momentum must be harnessed. You can't go too fast, but momentum must build somewhere. The second momentum starts to be lost, your
Yep.
chances of making the sale are crushed.
Yep.
And if you think about this, like a customer gets an idea about their project, right? They go online, they look at a manufacturer's website, they see an awesome picture. They've got some momentum. They've got this aspirational identity. They want to, they want something to happen with their space. So then they do a Google search and they find, 5 stores in the area, and maybe 3 of them have mediocre reviews and 2 of them have great reviews. So they say, you know what, we're going to go to these 2. That's momentum. They're
Yep.
looking smart. They did their research. They kind of know what they want. They've filtered out the good dealers from the bad dealers based on the reviews, and they're driving to
Yep.
the store, right? So you think about, I just use my own life, me and my wife and our 2 kids, for us to go shop somewhere intentionally, like that almost takes an act of Congress, And so we get to the place, we've got the momentum, like we're here. And for a salesperson to not ask us questions about the project, show us a billion options that I can't really tell what's what, and then staple a business card, and put 15 brochures in a folder and give them to me, that crushes momentum. And I used
With no
to think,
price, with no understanding of what this, is going to cost you, even if it's the right right thing.
Yep. And I've heard the mentality that, like, well, you don't want to give a price too early because they could use it to shop you. There was a meeting I had with a manufacturer. We were talking about something related to this, and they basically said, like, well, if we gave out prices too early, or if we gave out prices on behalf of our dealers, someone would just take it and go shop it somewhere else and it'd get undercut by $5. And I'm like, what world do you live in? Like,
Yeah.
The average person does not go to many fireplace stores, and you will not lose because of $5. You'll lose. Like if someone's spending $5,000, you actually won't lose because of $400. If someone's spending $5,000, you'll lose for other reasons.
Yeah. What's so important about building the price, it's not just throwing out a price, it's building expectations. It's understanding the customer's problem and how that product is going to solve it, and then understanding their scenario enough to quote it, to give
Yep.
them information. And the cool part is you're relying on their information.
Yep.
When we do a site inspection, what are we doing? We're verifying that information. So if you've given them a price and the information ends up being different, how easy is that explanation? You said 15 feet. It actually, because of vertical lines, it's going to be 36 feet. Here's the new total. Customer doesn't have any problem because it's been managed and explained through the entire process. But if you don't give them the price up front, like Tim said, and they pack the kids in, we still see it today. They come in, they go through this, they listen to all this stuff, they're trying to decipher. Man, if we can't even give them a rough idea of what it's going to cost, I mean, are they going to come back? It's really difficult to understand that they would, but sometimes they do.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man. So like the best combination that I found was HHT actually did this, and it was brilliant. They've got this really smart marketing piece for the way that they market their inserts. It's a big sign, and it really lays out the differences, which is great. We in my old business, we were a big HHT dealer, and we sold some other products too. And we kind of modified that idea a little bit to fit our specific business. And one of the best things that we did is on our big sign above our gas inserts, we put an average installed price range for every single one. And
Yeah.
and when I say range, like it was, I don't know, it might have been like $800 or something like that. And what we would do is just take the average, go look at your last 5 gas insert jobs that you did and add plus or minus $500 to it. And by simply showing that, for these models, the average installed price is, 5,500 to 6,500. For these models, the average price is 4,600 to 5,600. And for these ones, it's this. That allows the customer to start discerning while you're talking to them. And just like Danny's saying here, setting a budget early saves a ton of time. We can talk about that in a little bit. But this allows the customer to be part of the process, not you holding all the keys. And for us, it was such a good transition where if you've got a wide range on the floor, hey, on average, this wood stove ranges between $5,200 and $6,200. It's such a natural call to action to say, but you know what, Grant, now that we've had this conversation, let me write you up a bid that's more specific to your project before you leave. And then we'll get someone out to the house to verify it. It's so natural because the customer knows with the $5,200 to $6,200 range, they now know, is this a $10,000 project or a $5,000 project? Perfect. But now there's an open story loop in their mind where, but they need to take another step to make sure. And that's where you get the written bid. So you know what? This is what most people spend. Let's get a bid on your project based on everything we talked about. You write that bid up, and then you say, you know what? And this is great. We want to send someone out to your house to take a look at it just to make sure that there's nothing different than what we discussed. It's momentum. You're moving that momentum, starting big picture and then moving small.
Exactly. And there's customers that are going to be difficult to get numbers to and quotes to. I mean, you do have the people that say, I need to talk to my wife, I need to do this. That's okay. There are still ways to get them quotes. Here at Falco's, we do ballpark quotes. We use them, I think, to a pretty good level. I'm going to be hokey and show an example here. But what's really cool about it is we understand what a quote looks like and the certain items that it takes to put together this quote, but the customer does not. The customer has no idea. They don't know if it's 5,000, 10,000. They don't know what goes into it. So if you know the product type and they're rushing out of there, there's a ballpark estimate sheet you can put together that can do two things: give them a price and give them the path to completion, because they're not patient enough to even ask the questions. They're already frustrated sometimes. Not your fault. So here's the example.
Yeah. There you go.
So it's graph paper. It tells you how much of the pie is what different. This is just average. So they know that it's average and can change for them. And then 4 steps to completion. Those little things hook customers. They need to know cost and they need to know the path to completion, and they'll come back.
Yeah. And again, like you put that on a big sign. So like big picture, they get an idea before they even talk to a salesperson. Now the salesperson comes in, you get more fine-tuned. Let's get you a bid for your project before you leave, right? And then we're going to get, in your case, we'll get Dwayne out there to take a look at it, and he's going to make sure that there's nothing that's different. It's a really powerful tool. And the other thing too is like when you write bids, you get their information. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've made this mistake of spending an hour and a half with a customer and I staple my business card to a brochure. They walk out and I never see him again. I've made that mistake 100 times. So this is going to transition next is like, if as number one, we have to teach our team to understand the customer's problem. Number two is literally every customer looking at a fireplace on the showroom floor, they must walk out with a written bid. They must. I think that number three has to do with how we pursue the opportunity and follow up, right?
Oh yeah. I think that, I know that I talk about my company and Falco's a lot, in positive light and sometimes in negative light. And that's my life. That's what I've lived for the last 20 years. And that's my reference point. I did estimates very early on, and we didn't even follow up on estimates. Mm-hmm. So bad that our sales team didn't even know when estimates were done. Yeah. We would literally wait for customers to call us to check on their estimate. We didn't leave them at the house, or sometimes we'd leave them at the house. It was very inconsistent. And I think understanding and setting up that estimator successfully is the absolute key to everything going off without a hitch, depending on how the salesperson sets it up and kind of passes it through.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, so literally when I was working with this business the other day, a big thing that we were working on was their follow-up process. How do they categorize their book of business and then pursue those opportunities? And Grant, so get this. So for 2 salespeople in the company, their sales manager tallied up the total number of bids that they wrote up over the last year. So it's just 2 salespeople. Just guess, like, what was the total dollar amount of the bids that they wrote up? And these are not the ones that they won. These are the ones that are still out there.
I have no idea. I mean, have no idea.
Over $8 million. Like over $8 million. So a ton. Now, the cool thing is that they're writing up the bids. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's step one,
Yeah.
But as we were working on this, we were just talking, thinking, like, as we're logging these different jobs into their customer dashboards, so they can start pursuing them. We're looking at it saying, oh gosh, hey man, 3 weeks ago, the estimator was out and this job has 3 fireplaces on it by XYZ brand. And it's a $30,000 project and no one's called them for 3 weeks, but they had the estimator out. They've got some skin in the game on this. This is something that we have to pursue. And it's extremely difficult.
We give ourselves every reason on why not to pursue. We feel like we're a hindrance when that customer is expecting and begging us to. They need us to keep them engaged, to make the decision, and the person that keeps them engaged, they will go with eventually. But it's a difficult process, and I see my sales staff rationalize, I'll call them next week. No, leave them a nice just touch base method or message and say that you'll follow up with them next week, but touch base with them. Let them hear your voice. Keep your project in focus. Sometimes they just choose not to do the project. And it's because we simply haven't followed up. I mean, I can actually think of a scenario just recently where I got on the showroom floor, and so every time I'm on the show, I don't get on the showroom floor very often, but I always try to write up a quote. I always try to get contact, and I can honestly say that I can almost do it every single time.
Yeah.
Now, this customer, I got a quote. He said to follow up the next day. I followed up the next day. His wife answered. He wasn't available. He said, call the next day. I called the next day. He wasn't available again. I did not call the Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday because I just kind of anticipated that he maybe had moved on. I talked myself into calling him Monday, and he was like, thankfully, he's like, thank God you called. I've just been so crazy. And he went with it. But if I wouldn't have, he may have chose to do something different. And it was such a reminder to me because because I'm not a salesperson. You justify, maybe they'll go with it. Maybe they won't. I'll hand it off to a salesperson. Nope. I followed up and by golly, it was the 4th time, but they went with it.
Yeah, I agree. And I wasn't ignoring you. I was kind of rooting around my stuff. I might've showed this before on a previous PowerHour, but my recommendation is that you give your salespeople some kind of a weekly game plan, right? So this is an example of the one that I used to use in my retail store. And basically it's just a list of projects that you want to follow up on that week. So, the recommendation would be that if you're a sales manager, if you can take 20 minutes, on a Saturday night or a Sunday night, and you just simply go into QuickBooks or Ephesus or whatever your point of sale system is, and just run a report for all the bids that haven't closed, and literally just pick out 5 of them. Just write down the order number on a piece of paper and give it to each team member, and just say, hey, here's your job for this week. Is anybody that hasn't had an in-home visit yet, call them and ask them if they want to book it. If this job has had the in-home visit completed and the bid's finalized, call them and ask them if they want to get on the schedule, and mark this up and leave it on my desk at the end of the week. That simple cadence of framework. I mean, I think like this is something I'm working on right now with a number of businesses. It's just that simple cadence of like giving your team direction, right? And there's all the excuses. Hey, I got a million things to do. I can't. But it's like, well, man, if you want to outsource selling, if you just literally take 20 minutes, that's all it takes, and just give them 5 jobs. And then maybe next week you can give them 8 and then give them 10. Like over time, you can really start to build a behavior that's powerful, but follow up, like for any company that, spends a bunch of money in marketing, man, if you don't have a follow-up system, you could put one in place and cut your marketing budget probably in half, because all of those jobs are just, it's like you're going fishing with a hole in the net. Like all the fish are just swimming through.
Yeah, it's a game of numbers. The more you follow up, the more sales you'll get. And I would say that if you followed up on every single sale, and you always say 7 times, let's say even 4 or 5 times, I bet you could increase your portfolio 20%, 25% just by simply following up more regularly and more often. It's going to be something that we need desperately as an industry
Yeah.
once this bubble starts to burst a little bit. And pursuit and follow-up are a discipline, a structure. There has to be scheduled time to do it. Your sales team has to be cohesive in when they're doing it, because it's not easy to be on the showroom floor and be making follow-up phone calls. There has to be a team-like atmosphere to it, but it's got to be made a priority. And in your business, follow-ups have to be held accountable. I mean, truthfully, follow-ups, you have to report and understand who's following up, how successfully are they following up, what are they following up on? Are we having issues at the end of the installation that are a result of us not following up? I mean, there's a lot to the follow-up, not just in pursuing the sale and getting the sale, but also managing expectations of the entire process.
Definitely. And I love that Angela has commented here that she uses a CRM system. Like, those 3 words are very near and dear to my heart.
Yes.
And if you're not familiar with that, CRM just stands for customer relationship management. I would highly encourage you to use some kind of a dashboard system, like a customer dashboard, where you can load jobs into it and quickly look at it to understand customer's name, what product are they looking at, what stage of the sales pipeline are they at, and what's the next step to take action. And frankly, too, I wasn't going to do this, but if anyone wants to put in a comment, I'll DM you. Literally, I have a template CRM. It's a Google Sheets document that it's really basic, but man, it's what we used for years in my showroom. If you need something like that, just put it in the comments here, and I'll get in touch with you afterwards and send it to you, because this is it's a game changer. And Angela, I'd love to know what CRM you use in particular. Maybe you can comment in and share with us. Grant, okay, she uses HubSpot. Yeah, so good. I'm pretty familiar with HubSpot, and yeah, the free version of it can really help you do a lot of damage. The thing that I would say with all of this is when you have a dashboard to look at where every opportunity, it is so powerful to understand the pipeline stage. So, Grant, maybe could you talk about like how does knowing where the customer is in the pipeline help you with the sales process?
Well, I think following up multiple times is difficult. So knowing where the customer's at in stage allows for an easier conversation, allows for you to make notes as you've went through the journey to understand how to articulate and communicate with that customer best. Did they go on vacation, and that's the reason they're not, answering right now? When you follow up, ask them about their vacation. I think at different stages, there's different conversations and reasons to follow up with the customer.
Yeah. And again, it's so simple, but for most businesses in our industry, we've got 4 stages to the sales pipeline. Stage 1, the customer receives an estimate. Stage 2, an appointment is scheduled to come out to their house. Stage 3, the appointment's completed. And when I say completed, it means the bid is finalized. And then stage 4, the job is won, lost, or put on hold. Those are and there might be some modification depending on what your book of business is. Like, maybe you don't offer installation or do in-home visits, so there's some modification there. But understanding this is so powerful. If I know a customer is at stage 1, I don't care about asking for the money. All I'm trying to do is get them to go to stage 2. So I'm just calling them to schedule someone to come out to the house, right? Now, if the bid's been finalized, so they're at stage 3, right? The bid's finalized, the appointment's done. All you got to do is call and say, hey, our schedule is getting really backed up. I mean, assuming that it is, which everyone's is. So you can say, hey, the schedule's getting really backed up, and we've got some space in a few weeks. We'd love to get you on it. Is that something that you want to do? You've just asked them to give you money, right? But all you're doing is just moving them down the pipeline. It's really, really powerful. And communicating that pipeline to the customer is powerful too. Like, when they're on your showroom floor, you can tell them like, hey, this is how all of our jobs work. Step 1, before you leave today, we'll get you a written estimate for your project. So that way you understand approximately what it's going to cost. Next, we'll send one of our team members out to your house to take a look at it, and they're going to fine tune everything to make sure that nothing was missed and the installation is going to be safe. Step 3, we'll get you on the schedule and get this installed for you. So you've just told them what you're doing. So now when you call to follow up, you're just doing what you said you're going to do.
Yep. I love it. You talked about momentum earlier, and I keep thinking about a couple things. We don't have very much time, and we don't need to go into these in great detail, but I do want to discuss it a little bit. Uh, when we have momentum on the showroom, it starts, from the time we advertise to them, send out that invite, they come in, we're constantly building momentum. And two things that I see stifle momentum so often in the showroom are the way the displays are set up and the way the pricing is set up. So we don't have enough time to talk about probably the pricing, but just making a mention of standardizing your own pricing is so crucial. Tim and I have two different ways of doing pricing. Our businesses were a little bit different, but standardizing it to have it be your way and knowing your markup or margin is super important, so that your pricing is always the same, very consistent, whether it's, on sale or not. But displays, Tim, can we talk about displays for a little bit?
Yeah, give me 1 second just to hit pricing, because I totally agree. Like, pricing, number one, it must be shown. It must be shown. I'm okay with a range, but it has to be shown.
I agree.
Number two, just like you said, Grant, it's got to be standardized to where literally the accountant or the secretary, if everybody's sick and the secretary needs to show somebody a fireplace, they need to be able to give them a price specific to their project, and that can be done. We'll leave it there. Like, making the investment to standardize your pricing. You actually helped turn me on to that, Grant. I don't know, going back when we first met, I had some ideas of how we were doing it before, and you talked to me about, I think you called it like, you had some name, but there's like 1 week per year when you updated all the prices.
Black Week.
Now, Black Week. Yeah, now it's every week because there's a million price increases.
No, it's Black.
But I would always joke around that for me, I would spend the worst week of my life updating all the pricing, and then the beauty was I never had to answer a pricing question for the rest of the year. I mean, literally, like when you standardize the pricing, and even standardize what people can give away depending on what kind of customer they are. I think you turned me on to this, Grant, of like, hey, if they're a senior citizen, they get X. If they're a veteran, they get Y. If they're a builder, they get Z. And literally, like, with my teams, I would just tell them, like, don't come and talk to me unless it's something different than this. And I mean, I literally, I'm sure it happened once or twice, but I cannot remember a time in like the last couple of years of me, managing stores where I got asked a question on price.
Yeah. And don't go off manufacturer price, because all the margins and markups are different. You have to standardize your price off cost, and the investments you make into that product getting there, whether it's commissions, all that stuff should be built in. Okay. So can we talk about displays?
Yeah, man, have at it.
So with displays, like when I took over our showroom 10 years ago, there was just product wherever we could put it. Is there an open space? What should we put there? Open space? What should we put there? It's disappointing going into a lot of showrooms, but even the clean, really nice ones aren't thinking about the customer journey and the flow of the sale. And so when you're putting displays together, you truly have to be thinking about how these products solve the customer's, problems. And you have to set up your showroom in that way. And just real quickly, Tim, I'll let you go on this, but I want to reference where our gas inserts are in our showroom and how they're laid out. With gas inserts, we sell a good, better, best. We have an entry level right around $2,000, standing pilot millivolt 30-inch gas insert. Comes with a remote and fan, very simple, and works when the power goes out. Simple, reliable. Technology's been around forever, easy to service, et cetera, et cetera. Then you go into the better category, and we have Pilot on Demand system by Cozy Heat and a millivolt system by Enviro that has a heat exchanger ceramic glass. Two different customers. Enviro customer, standing pilot, is old school, reliable, wants heat, wants backup heat, wants the thing to work so reliable when the power goes out. And a customer maybe for a Cozy Heat Pilot on Demand wants a little bit more comfort, a little bit more bells and whistles, full function from the remote control. And then if you want the best, there's an EX32 by Enviro that is both those together. So you take the customer on a journey to how you build up the product and them choosing what is best for them. And yes, you have to do a checklist at the very beginning, but the flow in which your product lays out in your showroom is absolutely vital. Going over to the fireplace side, Tim, and you'll talk about this, having a rear vent, top vent, 36 and 42-inch fireplace has to be a standard fixture in your showroom because those are the customers coming in. You can talk about that a little bit more, but displays, and it has to be so intentionally done so that the flow of the sale is always the best it possibly can be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think showroom display and showroom layout is critical. And in general, less is more. I mean, you don't need a lot of displays. You just need the right displays. That's so powerful. I love your story about the good, better, best and the way that you do gas inserts. And, I'll ask some rhetorical questions here, but so in your better line, for instance, where you've got Enviro's Millivolt and you've got Cozy Heat's, Pilot on Demand, you've got a reason that you show those. And I would ask the question, does Enviro make an IPI system, a Pilot on Demand system? Yes. Does it exist in your showroom?
No,
it doesn't. And it would be easy sometimes maybe for a sales rep to be like, oh, well, we've got this new thing you got to put. And it's like, no, because it disrupts the flow
exactly
of what the showroom is. And it actually complicates your own product line. I'm going to give a little tease here. In the journal, we talk about this. We do an interview with Dan Woodward from HHT that is like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's called Think Upstream to Win in the Warehouse. But what Dan talks about now more than ever, a retailer must limit their SKUs. Limit your SKUs to what is right for your inventory, for purchasing, and for your customer. By simplifying, I get that they make a million things. I've got one series right here, and this is the problem it's solved. So powerful. So I love that. My advice, and again, a showroom is not a blank slate. Most people are there. You're in a situation where you've got what you've got. So you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars doing this necessarily, but wherever possible, I would group like products together. And when I say like products, I would base it on the situation. So my belief is that we really have 5 situations that we sell into. A customer could have a blank wall in new construction or an addition to a home. We could have an open fireplace that they have existing that wants, gas logs or an insert or something. There could be a sealed fireplace, so an existing old direct vent or B vent ZC that's in there. They could have a freestanding stove that they either want to add or replace, or they could have an outdoor space. And those are the 5 scenarios. That's it. And so what my recommendation would be, if possible, to arrange your showroom where any products for an open fireplace are all in the same area, which means your inserts and your logs of all fuel types are in the same area. And this is the open fireplace section of the showroom. And you can have it broken into wood or gas or pellet or heat producing or non-heat producing, but that's the area. Now, when it comes to ZCs, this is so powerful, is you have a new construction / remodel section of the showroom. And then you have a retrofit section of the showroom. And this is one of the biggest missed opportunities for retailers, I think, is that for most retailers in the country, they're not set up to do new construction. They're just not. And sure, you can cherry pick custom builders. I totally get that. There's a lot of things that are similar to a retail sale, but the businesses that are set up to do new construction, I came from one, they are cleaning the clock of anybody that's not specifically made to do new construction and nothing but new construction. And that's a tough market to break into. Now, the beauty is that what most retailers have, even though they may not have 7 installation crews that on a dime, when a subcontractor changes the schedule, can go keep up with it, or when a national home builder wants to do 150 homes in the next month and a half, they can keep up with it. You need to build a business for that specifically. But the beauty is that where retailers have opportunity is in retrofit situations, because again, anecdotally, 90% of the people coming into most showrooms that are looking to get a gas ZC are replacing one, right? They've got a 30 to 40-year-old home with an old dumpy, 36-inch DV in there, and they want to replace it. And the beauty is we've got products that do that. And truly, my belief, Grant, like you were saying, is that most of the ZCs on your showroom floor should be able to go into retrofit situations. Ironically, most of the ZCs made by manufacturers do not work in retrofit situations, which is crazy because there's millions of them around the country, and it's work that no one's going after. So Mike Anschultz is on this call here, like Travis Industries. Gosh dang it, man. The 564 and the 864 series, like the 864 frames at 42 inches wide by roughly, I think, 34 high, 22 deep. It's a top and a rear vent. Dude, that's the standard framing spec of every fireplace that's been made for the last 30 years. So if someone comes in and they say, oh, I've got an existing fireplace in my house, I can sell it. I don't even care about the measurements because I know it's going to fit that spec. Now, I'm speaking hyperbolically, and you're going to say, well, Tim, what about the situations where the framing is shallower or where it's in an office? Well, you know what? Comes in a smaller size, comes in the 564. So like if I'm working with a Travis dealer, the 564 and the 864, they're not different fireplaces. They're the same fireplace. We sell a big size and a small size. They're the same. It's really powerful. Now, I'm not going to be biased towards Travis here. Let's look at some other brands. Cozy Heat. You've got Cozy Heat. You got your Bayport series, right? The Bayport 36 and 42. Dude, freaking awesome clean face fireplace. Top and rear vent. It comes in the standard size, which, frames it, what's it, 41, 42 wide?
So, 41 wide on the, the bigger one.
So that's your standard framing size for 90% of any gas fireplace has been put in the last 30 years. And guess what? If I get out there and it's too big, it comes in a smaller size. Now, okay, let's go HHT. Let's talk heat and glow. I've got my 6000 series. I've got my Slimline series. I've got my, my 6000, my Slimline 7, my Slimline 5. Dude, again, I do not care what was in there previously because I've got something that fits. Let's talk Montego. One of the smartest things that Montego did is create a 42-inch linear fireplace that fits in a retrofit situation and can be rear vented out the back. Everything else requires vertical vent. If it's vertical vent only, you're done. You're 70% of the applications out there you're not going to get. I don't know where I'm pulling out these numbers. You can tell I'm fired up. But here's the point, is that when it comes to zero clearance fireplaces, don't chase after what is new and sexy and like what you think is gonna look cool, because most of the jobs out there are these retrofit situations where you can make an $8,000 to $10,000 sale without getting an outside contractor involved in, and no one's going after that work. New construction, man, it's a slaughter fest trying to get that work, and in a lot of cases, it's an Excel spreadsheet decision for the builder. Not that you can't add value, but it's a bloody market, right? But in these retro jobs, no one wants to touch them because people get intimidated on, well, we got to tear it on the wall and it could be top vent or rear vent, so versatility is the key.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the installation of the future. In the 80s and early 90s, we started switching over how we were installing fireplaces into homes, and we went from wood zero clearances to gas zero clearances. So a company like Falco's, where I'm dealing primarily with an existing customer that owns a home that is looking to replace this insert that they think they can just pull out of the wall, I need to understand that better than they do. And I need to be able to do it because 80% of them are no problem, easy jobs, and the customer can even finish them up. If you have tile just around it, pop it off, cut it out, pull it out, put a new one in, hit that same hole, frame it back up, sheet it. The customer is literally at the end of the weekend ready to go. And the other two places he went to, he was told $10,000 to $15,000 a month project. Just because they didn't know.
Martin's comment here, I should have mentioned the Q3, man, top and rear vent with an adjustable rear vent, which means I don't have to rip out and mess up the siding on the back of the house, right? I think, again, like, those are the opportunities that we've got in front of us that are so powerful, and rearranging your showroom around it is big. Man, we're at the end, Grant. I'm looking at our list and we didn't even get through half of the things that we wanted to talk about.
But that's why next week or next month.
Yeah, you're letting the cat out of the bag. But the next Power Hour, Grant, things we missed. I mean, I feel like we've missed a couple things on our Power Hour so far, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible to try to fit everything in the 60 minutes. So I think it's an opportunity to kind of go over the 10-step execution and finish that out, the heartbeat report, which we talked about, and obviously the list of stuff that we still have to talk on the sales side. All of it's really good. And I say we invite people back here in a month to kind of go over all those one more time.
Totally. Yeah. And you know what? I realized here I've got the wrong graphic because our next Power Hour is not February 17th. It is March 10th. So we'll make sure to send out invites for that. March 10th is the invite. We're going to do a wrap up on everything that we've wanted to cover so far. We're going to try to get to as many things that we've wanted to cover so far that we've missed out on. But for anybody watching this today, we're very thankful for you guys, and the fact that you're investing in your companies and growing your business is a big deal. But just remember, as we leave off, if you want your company to be a monster selling machine, I think there's 4 things we covered today. Number 1, teach your team to understand the customer's problem. Yep. Number 2, give a written estimate every time. Yep. Number 3, 5 follow-ups per week per team member. That's not a lot. If you can do that, you're gonna see things move. And then number 4, have an intentional showroom layout. Oh, okay. Jillian wants to know before we go, can we tell us about the workshop? Yes. So we have a workshop. Is it okay if I take this, Grant?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So we have a 3-day workshop that is coming up in May. And we are super, super pumped for this. Grant, you, myself, and a number of other facilitators that we know and trust are going to get together with a small group of dealers. We are capping it at 25 total companies. So this is going to be a small, intimate event. We're going to spend 3 days together going through our 10-step execution process, where you literally will build out the steps, like everything we talked about today. Okay, how do I do it? How do I build the sales process? We're going to build it there. How do I organize my warehouse? We're going to literally help you sketch out your warehouse and how it's organized. We're going to talk about how do I hand off from sales to the estimator, to purchasing, to installation, everything. And we're going to dive really deep on it. So I hope that helps answer the question. We have, a special that's going on through the end of the month, $350 off a single attendee, $700 off of 2 attendees, and 2 attendees is the max for any company, by the way. But you can go to itsfiretime.com/workshop and sign up. Awesome, man.
Awesome. Thanks for asking, Julian.
Yeah. We appreciate every single one of you and hope that this is helpful in growing your team. We'll talk to you again very soon on March 10th. And if you're at the HPB Expo, come talk to us. We got a booth. We want to get you one of these FireTime journals. All right.
Awesome.
Peace.